Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis, a podcast dedicated to the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell case. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi.
And I'm Fruit Loop.
What's going on? So we're going to jump right in today because I was getting ready for the podcast a little while ago and my alert on my iPhone went off and I looked and saw it was VineLink. So for those of you that don't know, VineLink is like an offender notification system. So you could follow any prisoner or anybody in custody, I think pretty much all over. And if they're released, it sends you a text message. So I get this alert that Lori Vallow has been released from jail today. And I almost fell out of my chair. And Fruit Loop was on a Zoom meeting. And it took every ounce of energy I had not to come in here and bust up in the room and just put the phone in her face. But we quickly learned from Nate Eaton, he tweeted out it was a glitch. They were transferring some kind of software to another system or something, and it put out this false alert that Lori Vallow had been released from jail today. Not true. So I texted you during your Zoom meeting, Fruit Loop. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it, and I happened to have Facebook open, and I saw Nate's post, and I was like, what? I wonder how many people got that text.
Oh, my gosh, a lot, because it kind of blew up on all the Facebook groups and Twitter, and it was just so funny. I was like a 3-year-old outside the door while you were doing your Zoom meeting, just waiting on you to say goodbye so I could run in here, but you already knew.
Yeah, that was funny.
Just a weird thing to see. I don't think she's ever getting out, but to get that alert, it seems sort of official.
Yeah.
It was really weird. So we watched the Dateline special last night with Melanie Gibb on there and a little bit of a summary of the case and covered more current events regarding the kids' remains being found. I'm starting to find a lot of my family members and friends are really getting interested in this case since it sort of picked up mainstream. Have you found that, Fruit Loop?
Yes, I've shared it with a good many people.
Yeah, but it's so confusing when you try to explain to people because you could see the gears turning as you're, because it flows so freely when we talk about it. It's like it's second nature to us. So we know who everybody is and how they fit in the puzzle. But man, if you try to explain this to somebody, it's just their mind is blown. And you just have to say, okay, I'm going to send you some links that summarize who's who. And even then, people are just still like, I don't get it. Who's this person?
Yeah, my mom actually said, do you know these people?
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. Even
my grandma's 85, and so she follows the case, and so she gives me the random calls and texts every day about it. It's really funny, just gives her something to follow. She's just heartbroken they found the kids, but it's amazing. This story is picking up. It's been really popular in the media for discussion, but I think since they found the kids, it's just through the roof because it's just such a complex story.
Yep.
It doesn't make sense. So we're going to hop into the Dateline episode. What was your overall impression? I mean, I don't think we really learned a whole lot last night. If you follow the case closely, there was a few tidbits in there. But overall, what did you think about the interview with Melanie?
Yeah, like you said, it was kind of like Nate's interview. We found a few things that were new. We heard a few things that were new. I still think she can't discuss a lot of things.
Yeah,
that she's been ordered, not to discuss certain things, and we're all wanting to know like everything that she knows. So I think sometimes it comes across like she's not, telling the truth or holding back.
Right. And
I would think it's kind of hard because you're sitting there talking, and I think you want to tell everything, but you're not allowed. So I know that's pretty hard. So
we know she's on the witness list for Melanie Pawlowski's custody hearing on July 1st. And then she's also on the list of the prosecution for Lori's case, which I don't know. I've heard a few legal eagles say that they think it could go on, the preliminary, just to, get it sent over to court. I don't know about the desertion charges, but somebody said definitely the contempt charges would stick. And that makes sense if you think about it. She did not present the kids when she was supposed to. So that'll be interesting to see if I kind of think they'll delay it, but then I've heard people say, nah, it might go on. So we'll keep an eye out for that. But I think Melanie Gibbs going to be just a key witness. And, of course, she can't go out and answer every single question that reporters have for her right now.
Sure. Some of the things we picked up on was she acknowledged that they possibly used her as a way to escape. Mm-hmm. And I think, when she was talking about when Chad called her and said, the police were calling, don't answer, that could be it.
Yeah. Well, of course. I think the difference that I saw a big difference with the two interviews. I mean, I think the Nate interview was, about a month ago? And so we've had a little time for her sort of to digest a little more. The one thing that I noticed was that she did, acknowledge that she had been used and that they had taken advantage of her. So I thought that was a little different than the first interview with Nate, where she was, gushing over that she still loved her friends and that kind of thing. I just saw a little difference in this interview. I think maybe with all the press surrounding the case, it's been, probably enabled her to see things from a different way. But
yeah, and she's filled in a ton of gaps.
Definitely. I mean, that's when we are every day following this case, for a long time, there were just no updates. It was all speculation. It was all us trying to figure out what had happened. And so when she came along and did the Nate interview, it really, for the first time, I felt like we got a really good glimpse into their world. And so for me, I thought it was very informative, and we've all wanted more information. So I do see a difference, though. I think she's just started to understand the gravity of it. Now, whether she's seeing somebody to sort of get out of the cult beliefs, I don't know. But I hope, in the future she can resolve these feelings and everything that happened with this case, because it has to be a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to bash and not here to judge. So regardless, she's right in the middle, probably of the trial. What's going to be the trial of the century.
Yeah, it's going to be huge.
It's going to be really big.
So during the Dateline episode, the Dateline producer tweeted out a bunch of tweets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we just found him last night. And so if you're on Twitter, it's at Dateline NBC PROD. So it's Dateline producer at Dateline NBC PROD. And as the episode was rolling on, he was tweeting out little pieces of things I didn't know about.
He was giving like little insights to what was going on as the show is rolling.
Right. It was very interesting. So we've printed out some of these tweets, and we're gonna talk about a few of them. A lot of the things we kind of knew if you followed the case a lot, but I'm going to bring up some of the more interesting ones. If you remember, Melanie had said that Lori had given the example of JJ when he was up in between the top of the cabinet and the ceiling, and David had said in the interview, was it David saying in the interview that he didn't notice anything wrong?
Yes.
But his job might give him a little insight into that.
Yeah.
He's a contractor, right? He's a general contractor. So he thought it was odd that she was saying that, he was up there. I don't know how a kid could get up there.
Yeah, I don't know either.
He wasn't a toddler. I mean, JJ was a 7-year-old boy, and he looked to be about the average 7-year-old size. I think it'd be really hard for him, one, to get up there, and two, to get on that really narrow, it's only the width of the cabinet. But
yeah, the other thing that came to my mind was, if JJ is making all that noise, because the way she put it, he was, terrorizing the kitchen.
Yeah.
If he's making all that noise, why didn't they hear him?
Yeah. Look, I don't trust anything that supposedly came out of her mouth. It's all, 90% of what we heard from her is lies. So why would she be any different? Another tweet, I didn't know this. The storage unit is only 5 minutes away from the townhomes.
Yeah, that's really close.
That's really convenient if you ask me. And we talked previously about how they all had attached garages in their townhomes. Why would you get a storage unit you're not going to pay for eventually? I don't know. That I still can't figure out why they left everything there or why they even got it in the first place.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
No sense. And he had mentioned that Lori wouldn't even tell Colby where the family was moving to. She only said it was somewhere cold, which I think is we talked on the last podcast about cults and how they really try to isolate you from the people you love. And I think looking back now, after I read all of these papers about the psychology of being in a cult, it almost seems like she was isolating Tylee as well from her friends and her family. And obviously after Tylee had died, Lori was still kind of masquerading as Tylee through the text messages, although Colby said he was a little bit suspicious because it wasn't Tylee's verbiage or use of emojis. But do you kind of feel like maybe Lori was isolating Tylee from everybody too?
It could be. And two, she helped look after JJ too. So
right. And we learned that from a friend that Tylee apparently didn't want to move to Rexburg, but only did because of JJ. And so, yeah, but it's interesting. It does seem like Lori took her away from her family and friends, and then, we know what happened next.
Yeah, it's weird. I think the interview that, I don't forget who said it. I don't even remember now, but they moved back from Hawaii, partially because Tylee missed her friends. Mm-hmm. And here you go, moving again. So
yeah, I mean, we talked about the disruption to JJ's schedule just that last year of his life and how that's really critical for autistic kids to have a set schedule. And so if you think about it, in the time before Charles died, they moved from Arizona to Hawaii back to Arizona. Lori moves to Texas. Is that right?
Charles moved to Texas with JJ, and then Lori eventually comes back out there, and then they moved back to Arizona.
And then they moved to Rexburg.
Yeah.
And I remember, one thing that stood out to me is Colby was giving an interview at one point, and he's talking about his mom when they had come by in the Jeep. I think it was, the day before they moved?
Yes.
And she told them they were moving, and the one thing Colby said to her was, just give these kids a base. Give them a place to call home, essentially, and quit moving around so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think he would have thought, when she said they were moving, that they were moving that far away.
Yeah, I would really, and the one thing the Dateline producer did say was that they reached out to Colby to be on the show last night, but understandably he was heartbroken and didn't want to go on TV. I think down the road eventually, I would love to hear kind of a history of his childhood with Lori. We're not entitled to know that, but I think it would be fascinating at what point did Colby start to see his mom change and things like that. But yeah, so I understand. Poor Colby. And I don't know if that was the interview with Kay and Larry. I don't know if that was maybe something taken from before. It didn't seem recent.
Yeah, I think both of those were from before.
Yeah, because if you look at the video from when Kay and Larry are in Rexburg at the site where the kids were found, I've been really worried about Larry. I just thought he looked bad. He didn't look healthy. And somebody on Facebook had said to Kay that she hoped Larry was feeling better. So we do too. Papa,
yeah.
We hope you're feeling better if you're listening.
Yeah.
So the other thing Dateline producer tweeted out was they keep checking in with Chandler, Arizona's police department about the investigation into Charles's death, and she is still considered a person of interest.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I think, yeah, definitely interesting. We saw just with discovering the bodies what kind of evidence that they had just with Alex's cell phone. So I'm sure they've got probably so much evidence surrounding all these mysterious deaths. I'm so curious to see all of this come out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out in court or whatever information they have from pings of a cell phone or text or emails or whatever.
Yeah, I just can't believe he took his phone everywhere. But I mean, at least it's helped find the kids. And I think it'll help. I think the digital trail will be the end all of these people. And
you can see it in his pocket in the picture, the new picture they released.
Yeah, but speaking of that new picture, okay, this is my thought. It was really similar, other than the fact that you had Alex and Tylee looking at the camera. Tylee had more of a smile in this picture.
Yeah, JJ was looking at the camera too.
But I found it very odd. I just kind of feel like maybe there's a reason they released that picture. And it wasn't just because we're going to give you another picture. I don't know.
Yeah, the one I read said it was just clearer. It was a better picture and it was clearer. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That release seemed a little odd to me. Well, I guess we'll see, but
every time they release something, there's a reason. So
exactly. And that's my point is I'm just curious. I don't know. Because I wonder if part of it isn't, if you think about it, we see Alex's phone in his pocket. So I assume this is Lori's phone, which leads me to believe they've probably pulled everything off at least that phone. Not to mention the 60 burner phones that they had.
Yeah, that number still is, it's just crazy. And then you hear April say in the interview she did with Keith that Tylee said, "Mom, you look like a drug dealer with all those phones you have."
Right. So, I thought that was kind of funny because it sort of gives you a little insight into her personality. And it's really something spunky to say, but I think she also might have seen the ridiculousness of it, which is, why do you need all these phones you're fumbling around with?
Yeah, I've had to carry 2 for work before, and it is so annoying. I can't imagine.
Speaking of annoying, have you tried, sharing phone chargers with teenagers? I can't imagine having more than one phone to deal with. We fight over chargers all the time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy. And then on top of the 60 burner phones, they also discovered that they had 30 email addresses between all of them.
Who remembers passwords to 30 emails?
Not me. I am every day having to reset something because I think I will remember this and I never do. I am notoriously bad about passwords. So, but I did a little research on these burner phones, and one of the main things with burner phones is they look for patterns on call logs. So let's say that Alex was using his regular phone, and then you see a cluster of unknown phone numbers, and then you find out it's maybe a track phone or a burner phone. And it was interesting because they said what they'll do is they'll make logs of who calls and when, and they establish patterns. And so one way they're able to determine that might have been a burner phone is you see a continual pattern with a different phone number. The burner phones are not as hard to track as I had thought from what I can have read. It seems like they have a lot of different ways. Now, I know the FBI back in the 90s worked with a company to develop a program that made it easier, but I feel certain if there's a number out there like 60, and Nate has said the word, I feel like it's probably an accurate number.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Dateline producer would have tweeted that if it wasn't verified.
That is a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of phones and emails.
Yeah, I can't imagine the what's going to come out with those emails and texts and the pictures in the iCloud account. It's going to be fascinating to see how all of this kind of plays out. And then the Dateline producer said that Chad had said God had told him, if you get a divorce, you lose your exaltations.
Yeah, that's something in the LDS church. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Somebody could tweet us back or something, or send us a message, explain that a little bit. But
yeah, but Lori didn't have a problem getting divorced 4 times before Chad.
Yeah, 3 times, and then Charles dies. So
well, yeah, but she kind of divorced herself from him with all her craziness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought it was funny. Chad said we can't get divorced. She didn't say we can't get divorced. Chad said that.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting. They on the show last night, they mentioned that they sealed theirself. It was like just a thing they did theirself in the temple, and Nate quickly commented that was not allowed.
No, I don't know much about Mormonism, but I can't imagine just going into a really a place that's very sacred within the church and doing that. Just given what's going on behind the scenes that people don't know, but God knows. And
they were still married, so.
But, the one thing that we did learn last night that was new was what Fruit Loop. What did Melanie say about Tammy?
Tammy did confront Chad, and Keith says 3 weeks later she was dead, so we figured it up. That would have been the beginning of October that she possibly confronted Chad about him and Lori. So then she shot at on October 9th, and then we know she dies on October 19th. So,
yeah, that's always been something we've wondered. It kind of seems obvious at some point she caught on, But I was glad to hear that at least she didn't pass away thinking he was just this wonderful person and a great husband, because he wasn't. And he may be paying for that for the rest of his life, too.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm just looking at these tweets here. Sorry, my daughter is on vacation right now, and she took my MacBook, so I'm having to look at my little phone. So I apologize if it's not blowing right now. Melanie Gibb and Chad, I didn't know this. They met in 2015 or 2016.
Yeah, I think she went to some things he was speaking at about visions he had or something, and she went to hear him speak on that.
So, I mean, 4 to 5 years they've been friends. 4 to 5 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, and I don't think, I think she knew who he was. I wouldn't say they were, I don't know, but it didn't sound like they were friends. I think she went to the conference because I think her and Lori, when they go together, is in October of 2018. And in that show last night, Keith said she knew who he was. So she had been, to some of those events or whatever. So
it always seemed like the same authors to me. If you look at those flyers that they had online for it with the boxes, with
the speakers,
it just seemed like it was the same people over and over and over.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like huge events. I know there was one interview Chad was given where he's literally sitting in front of like a bunch of gumball machines or like places where you reach in and get candy.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just very, to me, it's like their meetings were very small scale. I kind of wonder how many people out there followed him until all this hit the fan. I would be interested to know a true number.
Yeah. Yep.
Would you think it's in the hundreds, or would you think it's much smaller?
I would think it would be bigger. I know LDS is huge out that way. Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, out that way. They have big numbers out there. So
yeah, but I think it's important to note that we know this is not LDS. This is people that have extreme ideas that probably all met under the umbrella of being Mormon and just went off the rails. And I thought this was interesting. The Dateline producer said they spent 6 months trying to find Melanie Gibb. They knocked on doors, talked to her neighbors, acquaintances, and eventually some go-betweens. So it seems like Nate and Dateline both were really searching for her.
Yeah. I understand why she was hiding.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. And we know she's been working with law enforcement since, December?
Yeah.
So there's a lot I'm sure she hasn't been able to say.
Yep.
Dateline producers, their staffers, made 13 trips to Kauai while Lori and Chad were there.
Yeah, we're not going to know that information, but that was very interesting.
Yeah, and that's where they met Nate, and Nate is now a NBC News correspondent. I'm not sure if I have the title right, but we noticed a little title change for Nate last night.
I think it was contributor
or something like that. So we're happy for Nate. That we totally admire the way Nate and is it Eric?
Yeah,
Nate and Eric have covered this case, which has been, even though it's such an emotional case, I really feel they've been fair.
Yeah, I love how Nate, like, he's not afraid to go after Lori. Like, he's walking and he's like in her face saying,
I know. I love
where's your kids? People are praying for your kids. And, and then she says, that's great or something. He's like, that's great.
I know.
That's great.
I think the daddy bear comes out. As a parent, it's hard for me to watch those videos now of her in Hawaii where she's just, with her little beach tote bag and Chad's there holding hands. They look like, on the surface, typical newlyweds maybe, but with a lot of secrets. So as a mom, it is hard to watch. But Rexburg's tiny. This hit home on a very, small level for them.
Yeah.
They've been really thrust into the spotlight.
And I think one thing to point out, and we've talked about it before, we're looking at this story with a sane mind. Like our mind is not where theirs was. And I pray that mine never is. But we're looking at it in a sane mind, trying to figure this stuff out. And it's hard because obviously they're not in the right mind. Yeah.
I don't think, that's why I was really grateful that Melanie spoke out with Nate initially, because it did give you sort of an insight into, it scratched on their beliefs. And I think last night we learned maybe a little bit more detail about some of the theories within the group. But yeah, I still, every time I hear the stuff about zombies, it just seems like a movie. It doesn't seem like, how could somebody believe that in real life? But if you understand brainwashing and, altering somebody's thought process. I guess people believe anything after so long. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So, and the last tweet that caught my eye was the Dateline producer was on his way to California for an already scheduled interview with Melanie Gibb. The day that interview was scheduled was the day they found the kids.
Yeah.
So what people don't understand too is the day that she filmed that interview was literally the day they found the bodies and Chad was arrested. So I thought that was interesting.
Yep.
That they went out there. So let's see here. I'm scrolling through our topics because I can't see.
So the next thing that we talked about was Julie Rowe told Chad told Julie Rowe that Tammy Daybell must die before he can, finish out his
prophecy.
his prophecy or whatever. And that was 3 years before she
3 years
passed
before
away.
she died, yeah. I wasn't sure if anybody else had heard that or if this was sort of a new thing that came about with Lori and Melanie. But I really wonder, how long has Chad been creating this religion and trying to find the perfect people to join him before he met Lori and Alex?
Yeah, I mean, what we know by interviews and everything was October of 2018 was the first time that Lori and Chad met. And it was in Phoenix. So I'm sorry, it's not October. October was when Lori met Melanie Gibb in Phoenix. She was teaching a class and they met late October. So I was kind of right. Late October, they took a road trip to a religious conference. And that's where Lori meets Chad for the first time.
Phew, that's a fatal attraction.
Yeah.
It's funny because Melanie Gibb referred to Lori and Chad as a puppet, a hand, and then a puppet on a string. And then she also used the term I use, which is, or the phrase, fire and gasoline.
Yep.
Man, that was just a crazy combo. I feel like he hit the lottery, the crazy lottery, when he met up with Lori and Alex. I mean,
yeah.
Had he never met them two, I mean, he probably, I don't know, he may have found somebody eventually, but boy, a lot of people died because of that meeting.
Yeah. And you wonder now, with Chad and Lori in jail, will more people associated with this whole case start to talk?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's really something to think about. I mean, they're in jail. I think that like Melanie Gibb especially was frightened of repercussions potentially. Chad's out walking free until a couple of weeks ago. So I do wonder if people will come out of the woodwork and tell maybe little things they see in hindsight that might help.
Yeah. I mean, Keith said, last night that Lori was an avid recruiter. So we don't know number wise what, who's involved. Mm-hmm. We just don't know. So it'd be interesting to see if other people start coming forward with things that they saw and different things like that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And then this won't come out until much later, I'm sure, but I'm really interested to see if they've tied them to any kind of purchases that would have to do with the kid's death or burying the remains. Because didn't they have Chad, or there was a rumor, it's never been said by law enforcement, but supposedly an insider said they had some surveillance of him buying something?
Yeah, he was in some store or something buying a mask and some rope or something.
Oh, wait, where do we hear somebody associated with him saw a mask?
Yeah, whoever shot at Tammy Daybell on October 9th was wearing a ski mask.
What if they had Chad's phone pinged as being at the end of their driveway?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, they're such morons. I mean, the whole situation is sad. And the end result is we have people dead. But, man, they're the dumbest criminals.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stick my phone in my pocket while I'm, disposing of remains.
Yeah, and then again, you come back to the point of the world's ending July 22nd anyways. And
it would have been nice if they would have had one of their preliminary hearings on July 23rd.
Yes.
I would love to just sit there and look at their face.
Yeah.
The day after and see. But I think a lot of times people in those kind of religions, there's been a lot of doomsday cults. And so when it doesn't happen, they just sort of dismiss it as God saw a different purpose, and it may not have the effect on them that we think it will.
Yeah, I think they'll make up something. Well, it didn't happen because we're in jail. And
Yeah,
couldn't. Yeah,
they'll definitely resolve that in their head, but still, 23rd wouldn't have been a bad day.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Zach Cox, which is Lori's nephew Adam's son, he commented after Summers, her statement after the bodies were found, and she admitted she was wrong and stuff like that. But I don't think Zach is a big fan of Lori or anybody really associated with her, other than, his cousins, obviously he loved, but the adults in the family, I don't think he really liked them.
Yeah. It sounds like he was close with Charles, and he stated that she still believes that Alex, shot Charles in self-defense or whatever. And
yeah, because she did say that on the interview. Didn't she say she sent Alex over there?
Yeah, but there's been several other people that said, that Lori called him over there. So we don't know who's telling the truth.
Yeah, I don't know why she would go on there and say, well, I sent him over there. I was worried.
Yeah, because that implicates her. I mean, does that mean she's an accessory?
Well, it depends on how much these people knew.
Yeah.
And I think law enforcement knows how much they knew, but it's going to be interesting, I think, to see who was involved to what extent, because I don't think we really know yet. It's easy to think maybe Lori's family knew more, at least the sister, but we just don't know, so I don't want to assume.
Yeah, I don't know, because they moved around so much.
Yeah, they're nomads.
Yeah.
It seems like every place they had never had furniture.
Yeah.
Because if you look on the Charles video, when he was shot, there's no furniture. They go in the room with the black and white stripes. There's, a mattress on the floor.
Yeah.
Now, I do know sometimes with kids with autism, I know they said JJ would get out and try to get outside in the middle of the night. That's terrifying. So I do know that some parents that I know that have autistic kids will put a mattress in their room, and they will have the locks that lock on the outside too. That is a safety measure. But, when you hear stuff like that associated with this case, it does kind of give you pause. Like, why would there be locks on the outside of the door, which was noted?
Yep.
But I do know, but there was still no other furniture. It's like the living room was just empty. It's like, It almost seems like these people only slept in those houses after Charles died, at least. None of them I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I tell you, I did see where they did have furniture was in Hawaii. They had I think it was Daily Mail had an article that had pictures of Chad out helping load a rental truck, putting the furniture back on the truck. So evidently they rented a lot of furniture in Hawaii.
Mm. Well, I'm glad they felt the need to have a couch.
Yeah.
Kids didn't need one, I guess.
Yeah.
And you know what I was thinking about last night? Looking for patterns with Lori. She's been in relationships since, I think it's the mid-90s, 95 or so. She's had somebody consistently. So it's almost like Lori has a codependency issue where I know a few girls that just have to have a man in their life, and they, consistently have somebody. And I don't think it's healthy, but I thought it was interesting. I was thinking about how somebody had said she almost treated Colby I think Colby said it, that she treated him like a boyfriend.
Yeah, I thought that was odd.
Isn't that really weird? Yeah, I don't know. The other thing that we had seen online this week that initially piqued my interest was somebody had mentioned that Buckaroo's Barbecue, which is where they tracked Alex's phone after they had left Yellowstone, it's closed on Sunday, and that was the day they were in Yellowstone. But Fruit Loop, you looked up the map, or you looked up some around the area, and what did you find?
There was some other eating places around that area that they could have been, eating at and just parked there to eat maybe, or, something like that. So we don't know. Yeah,
because they were only there for like 15 minutes. And I mean, these people are sick. I don't see them hurting Tylee before they got home. It's pretty clear Alex was there for 2 hours during the night.
Yes.
And I just don't see anything happening at Yellowstone. But they did say, too, that you found a like a Mexican truck that was permanent in that area. And I think we had read he liked Mexican food or something. So it was something that for a day or so had our ears up. But
I'll tell you another interesting thing is that the FBI van is still in Rexburg.
Oh, yeah. That is interesting. It just makes me think that they're not done. And we found the kids. But it just seems like they've got more stuff going on. I mean, I've heard it's not cheap to have that deployed out.
Yep.
So it's very expensive. So clearly there's more stuff going on.
Yep. And the other thing was the FBI was present at Alex's autopsy.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast the other night. I couldn't sleep. I've been having sleep issues lately. I don't know what it is.
It's probably this case.
Oh, I turn the case off when I go to bed. No, sometimes I watch court TV or something.
I get your text, yeah.
Yeah, but I thought that was interesting because if you think about when his autopsy took place, it was in December. So he died the 12th, which was the day after Tammy Daybell was exhumed. And so I assume the autopsy took place maybe like 13th or something. I just thought it was interesting. I was listening to a podcast and they said that the FBI, they had somebody there at his autopsy. And I'm trying to figure out at that point, you're not looking at too long after the welfare check.
Yep.
So I kind of wonder, why were they there? I don't know. It's just, I don't know the answer. I'm not asking you the answer.
Yeah,
but
I don't know either. I don't know if that's protocol, if that's normal.
I mean, I don't know that the FBI would just come into an autopsy where there's no obvious signs of trauma. The only thing I can think is the welfare check gets Rexburg sort of their ears up. They talk to Arizona. Tammy Daybell's dead and buried. And then now you've got missing kids, and then the uncle just drops dead. So maybe they had the FBI on this, like, from the get-go. Once it became clear there were multiple deaths.
Well, yeah, looking at this case with all the deaths, obviously it would be suspicious.
And it could be, too, once they found that iCloud photo of them in Yellowstone, they could have immediately contacted the FBI because that's federal property. And so if she had went missing in Yellowstone, that would become a federal case. So it could be just with the Yellowstone picture. I don't know, but then it could be, okay, now we're starting to realize there's like a lot of people dead around these guys, and now the uncle just drops dead the day after we exhumed the body. So I just thought it was interesting that they were there.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So what else do you have, Fruit Loop? I think I've covered everything I was going to.
Just talking about Melanie Pulowski and Ian. I don't know if you guys have seen this case. Their case is just really weird, but the case between Brandon and Melanie, and you have Ian who, wore a wire for a while and was trying to get information, and now he's kind of backtrack on all that, and was saying he was writing that letter so he could tell Melanie's attorneys what the police heard and all that stuff. So I just found it interesting, the text that he sent his ex-wife Natalie. I'm just going to read it because it's pretty good. He tells her, "Don't respond. I need you to encourage Brandon to keep info he gets on the down low until I can get this sorted out. I want to help, but it will be tough if he's trying to say everyone starts figuring out what I'm learning. She didn't know beforehand what was going to happen. They made the attempt, failed, and told her about it after the fact. I understand that he doesn't want the kids around her because of all this, but I believe if she can see them, it will put a huge dent in her trust with her uncles. She's scared and had been told her 2 middle children are dead. She has a family court date on December 11th. I'm trying to get her to go." So then he comes back and texts again and says, "I don't know if I can convince her to go to family court hearing on Wednesday. I'm trying, but she got an answer last night from God himself. Her uncles have her so wrapped up. They're telling her she needs to move to Ammon. That's not going to happen because I'm not going to leave Rexburg. They think it has something to do with jurisdiction. Dumbest thing ever. Don't respond. Just wanted to update you earlier because I had a quick second to call. Stay safe." I just find those very, how can you send those texts out and then be where he is now saying, oh yeah, it's okay. Nothing's wrong.
He did a 180.
Yeah.
I mean, just now he's defensive, and I don't think he hasn't put out a statement, has he?
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
Melanie.
the only last time we heard from him was when he was with Melanie on the interview with Nate, and that's it. And I just wonder, his text where it says she's scared and had been told her 2 middle children are dead. I wonder if that meant they're zombies.
Look, I really am glad Brandon got these kids and got them to safety. We don't know what could have happened, but I mean, it's not hard to imagine given what we know now.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm just so baffled. Where did Ian, it's almost a thing where Chad was still out there when they did this last interview. Do you think Ian was petrified of Chad?
Could be, possibly.
I mean,
with everything going on and these people dying and kids missing and all this stuff?
That's the only explanation I can think, is he just got scared by somebody. I don't know if he was warned or they knew he went to the FBI.
Yeah.
I mean, Melanie found out, and all of a sudden he turns on the FBI and kind of puts out something that says he was working with them, but he's not. And very
Speak
confusing.
to my attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you say when you don't have any excuses left.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought that was really weird.
It is weird.
Yeah.
I don't get it. He's an interesting one to me just because we don't know a whole lot about him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when did he divorce his wife? Was it prior to all? I mean, was it further back than like last year?
Honestly, I don't think it's been that long ago. I don't know the exact date, but I don't think it was too long ago. And all these marriages and stuff they run together, but all these marriages in this group is just weird.
It's very weird, but it's also very common in cults. Group marriages, arranged marriages rather. They tend to be a common theme, but it's going to be interesting because Melanie's pregnant. And Melanie Pulowski is pregnant.
Yep.
And she doesn't look like she's early, I would say. I mean, then again, after she's had 4 kids? I've had 3. I know by my third one, I think, 8 hours after conception, I looked like I was 3 months pregnant. So each consecutive pregnancy, you get bigger quicker. But she looks like she's got to be at least, 5 months, 6 months, maybe.
Yeah, I would think.
It's going to be interesting. I almost wonder if Ian's not sort of holding on to this because of that kid.
Yeah.
We don't know if Melanie's going to be taken into custody at some point either. I have a hunch she will.
Yeah, possibly. We don't know. We don't know, and like you said, we may not hear any of this because it's a family court case, and it may be sealed because of the kids.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like Melanie had to have known about the attempt on Brandon, as close as she and Alex were. There are some things coming in that hearing we saw about life insurance policies and texts about life insurance policies, and that's a common theme in this case too.
Yep.
But I feel like she knows more, and it will be there in digital form, I'm sure.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to touch on was when Charles is shot, there was a news. They did a. I lost my word I'm looking for here.
Let's
Sorry.
find your word.
They released they did a story on this where JJ went to school, and he was actually in school there 2 years, and they kind of gave a little bit of background. They said that Lori was the perfect mom. They, no red flags. Charles was an awesome dad. And it wasn't until Charles's death that they started noticing some things, and we know they told them that he committed suicide, and they learned the truth by watching the news. So the school learned that it was actually, a shooting by watching the news. But it was very interesting when it's August of 2019, and it's right before Lori and them moved to Rexburg. JJ comes into school and he's very agitated and upset. And he was saying, my dad's not dead. He's not in heaven. He's just traveling.
Oh, bless it.
So Charles was shot July 11th.
Yep.
And this is towards the end of August or in August, and they still haven't told him that his dad passed away. That's crazy.
It is, but I think it follows the whole narrative that her secrecy, and she only let out what she wanted to let out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter if a 7-year-old loses his dad. It's confusing if he's not there.
Yeah. I mean, of course, Charles did go out of town a lot and stuff, so that probably was an easy sell to him, I guess.
Yeah.
But so I just thought that was pretty bad. And the last thing that we got this week was they released the dispatch calls that Charles made to the police department, trying to locate Lori to get them to pick her up for the mental eval. So those were interesting.
It was 2 calls in one day.
Yeah, it was actually 3. We didn't hear the first one, but we heard the last 2, and we don't know if that's the only 2, but they released 2. But in the second, the first one that we heard, the lady says, "Yeah, we spoke to you earlier." So that at least alludes to 3 calls he made.
Oh yeah, I didn't know. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
But and man, the one thing I was thinking about too with Charles, we've seen him on 2 separate body cams. Well, we've seen him on 3. Unfortunately, one he was deceased. But in the 2 where he's trying to get Lori help, and then the 2 phone calls, he never loses his patience with these guys and gals that are just brushing him off.
Yeah.
I think I would have been screaming in the phone, "She's crazy. You're not listening to me."
Yep.
I think that says a lot about Charles. I like to think that I can judge people a little bit by their demeanor and stuff, and he just seemed like a really gentle man. Now, I know nobody's perfect, and you can't make somebody out to be a saint because we all make mistakes.
Sure.
But just overall, his demeanor seemed really, really calm and caring. I think caring is the best word too, because he's talking about Tylee calling her his daughter, and I know so many stepdads that say, "Oh, my wife's daughter or my stepdaughter," and he just, "My daughter."
Yes.
But Tylee didn't have her dad was deceased at that point. And one tweet that I forgot from Dateline producer, at Tammy's funeral, Chad was going around asking or telling people if they were light or dark.
Yeah, that's weird.
How? I was shocked.
Yeah, that's weird. Your wife has just passed away, and now does that mean he was telling the people, or was he with his little group saying that this person's? I don't know.
No, the tweet here says, "We've heard at Tammy's funeral, Chad was pointing to attendees and pronouncing their spirits as light or dark."
Oh wow!
So he was just walking up, I guess, and saying light.
That's crazy.
Light, dark.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh man, that is insane.
So we wanted to let you guys know that we have our website up. If you go to www.prettyliesandalibis.org, we have a ton of information on there. You can find our podcast from there. You can, what else? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, we've got all those. I'm having a problem getting this podcast on SoundCloud right now, so I'm going to work on that this week. And we're going to be updating that website really frequently. It's a
great place to go if you're new. If you're new to this case, we have some links where you can watch some videos, the Dateline stuff, stuff like that, where you can catch up.
That's where I've been sending my family to now that have taken an interest, but I mean, they don't know who's who. They don't know who's what, who did what, who said what. So we just send them there. The first 2 Datelines are on there. All of our social media feeds, as well as links to the podcast on the various platforms. Don't have it on an Android base right now, but we're working on that too.
Yep. So if you need to beef up what's been going on or catch up with what's been going on, check that out there, and you can find some stuff.
Yeah, and it's a work in progress. And at the bottom, it tells a little bit about me and Fruit Loop. We've been friends for nearly 30 years. She's been there when all my kids were born. She's gone on big family vacations with us. My parents are like her parents and vice versa. So there's a history there. We have a lot of fun. I'm actually really surprised we haven't busted out laughing at a really inopportune time yet. That's just how we roll.
Yeah, it's like laughing in church.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we we're known for that. Like in the city we grew up in, everybody, my nickname was Hoopty and she's Fruit Loop. So it was Hoop and Loop. And it's just, everybody would say when we were coming, here comes double trouble, but you know, in a good way. We never really caused too much trouble. So, but yeah, you'll hear all about our friendship over the years. There's some pictures of us hanging out and stuff. So we hope you enjoy it. And I think that wraps us up tonight. Anything else you wanted to discuss?
No, I'm good.
All right. So we'll be back on maybe later in the week. I don't think there's too much happening right now unless we get upgraded charges. I don't know if that's going to be anytime soon. I was actually watching one more thing. I was watching a medical examiner last night on Court TV, and he said it could be a big challenge to determine a cause of death with Tylee just because of the condition of her remains. So he wasn't convinced we would get a cause of death anytime soon, and the anchors were all sort of in agreement it would happen, but they feel like maybe the preliminaries will go on because with Chad, we know he tampered with evidence with the bodies. And so that's a charge that just tides him over to trial. And then with Lori, the desertion may not come in as much, but the contempt does. So there are some people that say these preliminaries will still go on, and then some people think they won't. Be interesting to see. But that's all we got for you guys. Check us out on all of our social media. And again, that website is prettyliesandalibis.org. And from there, you can see all of our social media. My dog says bye if you can hear him.
See ya.
All right. See you guys later.